Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, we have our weekly pod talks with Elisa, and we're going to be talking about something a little bit different before we talk more about mindset. But this time, we're going to be more specific about nutrition, and we're going to be discussing about macronutrients, the importance of every single macronutrient, not just one, because I feel like we hear more people just pay attention mainly to protein and they forget about carbs and fats and all of that. So we're going to be explaining that and going to give you some examples of each so you have a better understanding of how everything works. But thank you so much, Elisa. How are you feeling today?
Yes, good. Good to be back. We had a few weeks where we've kind of been a bit like
Mm,
our schedules all over the
yeah.
place. It's a perfect example, like to show people like your weeks or your days are not always going to go exactly to plan.
Mhm.
It's come up, so it's just about getting through it. But it's like the end of May already. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So months are flying by. I think this will be a really good topic just to help people understand macros better. Because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Like they just, they're like, oh, this is the amount of calories that I have to eat. But it's like, okay, how are you, deciding your macros based on the amount of calories that you have and the importance of all macros, not just, like you said, not just one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I still hear so many people, they just like, yeah, I need to hit my protein. And they're like, oh, I don't want to have too much carbs. Like, that's what's making me gain body fat. That was making me fat. That was not helping me lose weight. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I don't think it's carbs. I think it's the excess in calories that's not
Yeah.
helping you lose body weight. Because when we talk about body weight or, losing body fat, it's all about numbers. Like we don't have to get too much into detail, but it's all about numbers. As long as you're in a caloric deficit and as long as you stick with that deficit, it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. Like losing weight, it's pretty simple. I know it's
Yeah.
not really easy, it's challenging if you haven't done it before. But again, if we're just talking about numbers, it's pretty simple. But I think what's a little bit more challenging, it's maintaining that weight.
Yeah.
And that's why knowing your numbers and knowing more about macros and making sure you have not just protein, but making sure you have fats and carbohydrates is going to help you enjoy what you're eating. Because if you're only doing having mainly just protein and fats and no carbohydrates, that's when you get your sugar cravings. And that's when you feel like, oh, I'm really missing having some toast with peanut butter or like some ice cream or some cookies or this and that. And that's where people go wrong. So I think
Yeah.
the first thing is to understand the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients.
Yeah.
So macronutrients, when we talk about like the bigger molecules, so we're talking about proteins, fats, and carbs, and that's what gives you energy. Those are the energy, no energy sources, but that's what gives you the nutrients and the energy. And then we
Yeah.
have the micro, the smaller molecules, and that's your vitamins and minerals,
Yeah.
which you can find them in food, and that's the main source that we want to find them, get them from. Or you can also get supplements like your multivitamins, magnesium, zinc, iron. What else?
Yeah,
There's so
because
many.
it's hard to get you got to think as well, it's hard to get everything just through your food,
Yeah.
especially when you are dieting and you've got less calories. Like obviously if you are someone that's having a lot more calories, well, you can get more of that in because you've got more room for that. So that's why like even a lot of my girls when they are dieting, I always promote like supplementation, like multivitamins and vitamin B, vitamin C, magnesium, like you were saying, all of those are really important because you're not going to get all of that through your food. You know what I mean? And like even fiber is something that I
Yeah.
think a lot of people kind of neglect especially because like a lot of fiber comes from like carb sources as well. A lot of people cut that out and then
Mhm.
they've got no fiber in their diet. They're like, oh, but I'm eating like so much protein, like we were saying before. And it's like protein still has calories, but
Yeah.
you know, each different macro has its purpose. And I think this is where people need to understand that a lot of fiber does come from your carb sources. So it
Mhm.
is still important to have that, like for digestion, for all of that. And I think it's just about understanding and learning more about macros and what they do for your body.
Yeah.
And a big thing as well, protein still has calories. I think like people think I am just having a protein shake and not actually adding it into their calories. Like it's still
Mhm.
calories. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So understanding that these macros make up your calories. So
Mhm.
that's obviously where calories are from. They're not just like a made up number. So they're coming from your macros. So it's important to make sure that I think it's good to for people that are starting out, yes, it's good to have like a calorie goal, but it's also important to understand or have like macro targets to understand, okay, this is what I need to function or for my specific goal. I think, yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, and I think also understanding why those macros are important. Because
Yeah,
people know, okay, protein, maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but protein, is the one that helps with like muscle repair, is the one that's going to help us gain that muscle mass, get that tone look that we want. Okay, amazing, that's protein. But then what about carbs? What about fats? Yeah, carbs are the ones that help you with energy, like they are the main energy source. So whenever you have, let's say, your oats, or maybe as a pre-workout, you have some rice cakes with banana and peanut butter, your body's going to use those macros from the carbs, especially the carbohydrates, going to break it down, and it's going to use that as an energy because carbs are very easy for your body to break down. And you're going to be able, well, your body's going to be able to use that, and you're going to be able to perform really good at the gym or whatever you're doing. Just doing, working, whether you're some office job or you're working around doing your activities. But carbohydrates are your main energy sources. And also, like you say, fiber is very important. If you're not consuming enough carbs and you're not consuming enough fiber, your digestion is not going to be the best. You're going to feel constipated. And I'm sure you don't want to feel constipated. And that can be maybe because you're not having too much fiber, or maybe because you're having too much. Sorry, you're not
yeah,
having too much, or you're having too much. Because,
that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people, it's so interesting. They actually get a lot of digestive issues like digestive issues from consuming too much protein.
Yeah.
Is the thing as well. And it's like, whilst a high protein diet is important, it's all based off your body weight as well. So
Mm,
people have different targets based on their body weight. You can't really just be like, okay, this is the amount that you have to hit. You know what I mean? Because it's different for everyone. It's different depending on their size and structure, depending on what they do. Like, so people need to keep that in mind as well. Like,
mm,
there's no magic number. It's the same with like steps. Like, people think the magic number is like 10,000 steps. That's not really the magic number. That's just like a benchmark we use,
mm,
So it's the same with protein. Like people say, like, okay, hit 100 grams as a benchmark, but that's not ideal for everyone. You know what I mean? Like that for me personally, is very on the lower side. You know what I mean? So it just, it really depends on your goal, on your body weight, on your where you're currently at in your journey. And I think that's important to understand as well. And like you were saying, you need all of them. Even like fats, people don't realize how important they are for like your hormone regulation and all of
mhm.
that type of stuff as well. Like if you actually delve into what these macros are doing for your body, you will be mind blown. You'll be like, oh wow, So obviously, if you have no fats throughout your day, that's not healthy as well. So you've got to really make sure that you have a balance of all of them. And this is why I say to people, especially people starting out, especially your main meals, have like a protein source, a carb source, and a fat source in that meal. So
Yeah.
that way you're hitting that. If you're someone that's not really confident in tracking yet, that's just a
Mhm.
good way to make sure that you're getting all of those nutrients. So at least your three main meals, like pick a carb source, pick a fat source, pick a protein source, and that way you've got that in there.
Yeah, and I think like with fats, something that I used to think when I started with my journey, I was like, if I want to lose body fat, I shouldn't be having fats because
Yeah.
it's gonna make me gain more weight. That's gonna make me gain more body fat. But it's not like that. Like you said, like fats help you with your hormone regulation. Fats are also very dense, and that's why they also have more calories. So per 1 gram of fats, you gain 9 calories, compared to protein and carbohydrates, you only get 4 calories per 1 gram of protein or
Yeah.
fat. And that's why when if you get a meal plan from a nutritionist, or if you just look it up online, you will also usually see protein, let's just say, might be 120 grams, for example. Carbs might be, I don't know, 160 grams. And then fats is usually a little bit lower, maybe like
Yeah.
80, 50. And it's because you need to times that by 9. And that's why it's going to be a little bit more calories compared
Yeah.
to the other sources. But yeah, you want to get those fats as well. You need them. Don't avoid them. Things like your olive oil, nuts, seeds,
Yeah. Yeah.
avocado. Yeah. What else? Peanut
Peanut
butter. Yeah. Any nut butter,
butter.
peanut butter.
That's the thing as well. Like you were saying before, like these things are like your nuts and your peanut butters, they're so calorie dense.
Mm,
So
yeah.
you've got to make sure that you're having the right amount, like right serving as well. Like I think people think, oh, especially people starting out, they're like peanut butter, nuts, they're so healthy. but they'll have too much of it,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting our calorie densities,
Yeah.
you know. So, like a big thing when a lot of my girls, when they came to me, like nuts, they didn't realize, and they were having like 400 calories just on nuts, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, it wasn't even a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's calorie dense, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because obviously the fat content and whatnot. So yeah, it's really important to understand that as well. Like I would love to smash so much more peanut butter than what I have, but
Yeah.
it's too calorie dense.
And it's so
Yeah,
easy to have like one handful of nuts or like two handfuls.
yeah,
You don't even think about it. Like, oh yeah, it's healthy. And again, the labels, it's healthy. So you think you can
yeah,
have as much as you want and you can just consume whether it's almonds or peanuts or cashews, walnuts. Yes, they're healthy in a way that they're gonna give nutrients to your body.
yeah,
But again, just because they're healthy, quote unquote healthy, it doesn't mean you can have the whole packet of almonds or like cashews. It's all about numbers. Remember, it's all about calories. It's all about, yeah, mainly numbers and calories.
yeah,
And something else I was going to say about fats, I think that's also one of the problems that not most of my clients, but a few of my clients used to have. They will remove a lot of fat from the diet. And the diet will be mainly just protein and salads. Like
yeah,
chicken with salads or steak or fish, tuna with salads. And it's like, no, like don't be afraid. You want to have those fats, you want to have those carbohydrates. And
yeah,
fats are the second energy source that our body uses. So let's say your body doesn't have any stores of carbohydrates anymore, then your body's gonna start using the fats that you consume
yeah,
as energy. And that's another reason why fats are so important. Carbohydrates, main energy source, fats, second energy source, and then protein is the last energy source because it takes much, much longer to break down that
yeah,
protein into single amino acids to be able to be taken to the bloodstream and then be used as energy. Yeah, that's why having a variation of everything, it's something
yeah.
you should be having. Yeah, I just don't know what other
And
way to comment.
that's why people like have carb sources before their workout because it's a quicker source of energy. Whereas like obviously protein is going to take longer to digest. And this is why people say as well, it's important to have protein in your diet because it does take longer. So it will keep you fuller for longer.
Mhm.
Because it's quite common and this is what I've noticed with a lot of people as well. When you have just carbs, like a meal with just carbs, you feel hungry
Yeah.
quickly after. Like you don't have that fullness, unless obviously you're consuming a large amount and you're stuffing yourself. But I'm just saying, like, as just a meal, for
Mhm.
example, you'll just have carbs, you feel hungry straight away. And it's like because they're very quickly digest, like they digest super quick. So
Mhm.
that's why people say add protein because it's got that slower digesting process, keeps you fuller for longer.
Yeah.
Um, so this is where a lot of people went wrong, where they came to me and a lot of their diets were just full of like carbs and they're like, oh, like I'm just so hungry still. Like I'm eating all these carbs, but I'm so hungry. And I'm like, well, you haven't got the protein or the fats to complement those meals, So yeah, that's another thing that I think people like, they're like, why does that happen? And it's a really common mistake that I see people make.
Yeah, and I think another mistake people make is when they have their carbs or their fats or their protein, they don't really choose like the high quality ones. They choose
Yeah,
more of the low quality or anything that's like ready to go, like anything that's on a package, which is
yeah,
fine to have every now and then. Like it's not like don't
yeah,
have that ever, but you don't want to be just having that all the time. You want to focus on
yeah,
having just that high quality protein, those high quality carbs, those high quality fats. So for carbohydrates, we'll be talking things like something very simple, rice, sweet
yeah,
potato, but not the frozen ones. You like get
yeah,
the actual potato that you have to peel and then cut. Yes, I know it's
yeah.
more, but it's worth
Yeah,
it. Like that work is worth it. Again, if you have the frozen ones every now and then, it's fine. But
yeah,
don't put a habit to have it every single day
yeah,
because fresh is gonna be a little bit bitter. We have pasta as well. Absolutely nothing wrong with pasta.
yeah. Rice.
Rice,
Yeah.
yeah, rice cakes, fruits,
Even like bread, like a lot of people
bread,
steer away
yeah.
from bread. It's like it's such a good source of fiber
Yeah.
as well. So I think it's really important. And I say to people, like, you don't need to cut any of these macros out completely. It's just about how am I going to structure it to obviously support my calorie goals.
Mhm.
And it's all about, and that's why it's so important to understand calories and what's in foods, how much. But it's like I always say to people, as long as you have protein, carbs, and fats in your meals, especially like your main meals, you're going to get good results from that. It's when you over consume a certain amount, that's when it becomes a problem. Like, for example, those people that go on those keto diets, right? So their diets are pretty much just protein and fats and no carbs. Like, the only carbs that they get are from their veggies. Now, what happens when they eventually introduce those carbs? They put on weight, they can't digest them properly, they have all these digestive issues, obviously because they have cut them out for so long. It's going to negatively affect their body. So that's why I say to people, having all your macronutrients is going to be beneficial for you in the long run, because your body's going to be able to digest foods better. This is why people have digestive issues. Like, they've actually caused them themselves. People don't realize that. Like, you have restricted yourself from these foods for so long that when you do have them, your body does not know how to process and how to digest them. So it's really, really important to make sure that you have a balance of that.
Yeah. And also, like, I feel like this is something I've seen on TikTok. I think it was TikTok. I don't know. But there's quite a few people that they're just like cutting out sugar completely.
Yeah.
And they tell them, like, it's been 45 days or like, I don't know how many days, no sugar at all. But I'm only allowed to have one cheat meal on the weekends, but no sugar at all. Okay. If you're having a cheat meal on the weekends, I'm sure that has something with sugar. So you actually have sugar.
Right.
You're not cutting that sugar out completely from your diet.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
let's say you were cutting that sugar completely, like no sugar at all. Let's just say you were doing that. One, why will you do that to yourself? Like,
Yeah.
sugar, it's not the one that's going to kill you. It's overconsumption of sugar. It's going to make you, it's going to
Yeah.
kill you. Yeah. It's anything in excess that's going to kill you. Why take something like that out of your life? Like sugar, anything that has
And
sugar
that's
is
the thing.
tasty.
And like, this is the thing, people cut these out and they wonder why they have these binge episodes, and
Mhm.
wonder why once they get those foods, they feel like they have to have so much of it, and then they feel sick. And it's like, well, obviously, because your body is like, goes into shock. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, your body hasn't had this in ages, and it's like, and then it's like, perfect example is like competitors, right? This is a common thing. They obviously cut a lot of foods from their diet when they're competing, and they have that like post-show kind of
Binging. Yeah.
episodes, and they feel so sick because their bodies have not had it in so long, so that's why it's so, so important. Like, go back to basics. Like, I think about what the main message was before all these like fad diets came out, like keto and fasting and all of that, all these fad diets. And it's like, the basics were carbs, proteins, fats
Yeah.
in every meal. Like, that's it. It was that simple. Before even all these tracking apps came out and all of that. Like, that's how people just, that's how people ate. And I feel like people just, they
Mhm.
will feed into so much misinformation out there, and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not gonna eat avocados anymore. They're too high in fat. Or I'm not gonna have this protein source anymore because it's got and it's like, no, like, it's probably just you're over consuming, like you said. You're over consuming, you're eating more than what you should be, and that's why you're putting on weight, And
Yeah.
like you were saying at the start, the only way to lose weight is be in a caloric deficit. So obviously, if you're putting on weight, it's probably not necessarily from the food choices, it's the amount of calories you're having.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's misinformation and also people
yeah,
copying what someone else is doing. Because maybe
yeah,
you see their friend or like that girl on Instagram, they're like, yeah, it's working for them. Let me try that. And it's like,
yeah,
cool, it's working for them. But just because it's working for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Like, you got to think about yourself, your health, your
yeah,
lifestyle. Like, there's so many factors to think about. And it's still very surprising to me that now with social media, so much information around, and there's
yeah.
still people that,
There's still people that
yeah, that follow those
will
crazy
feed into
diets,
that fat.
approaches.
Yeah. And that's why, like, it's so interesting. I laugh every time, but I get so frustrated. It's like when people are like, oh, I cut carbs out and I lost so much weight. Feels so good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you cut carbs out, but you cut calories. That's why you lost weight. You
Exactly.
didn't lose weight because you don't have carbs in your diet. You lost weight because you cut a significant amount of calories. You've got to remember as well that a lot of carb sources are calorie dense or fat sources. So if you're cutting them out, you're cutting back a significant amount of your calories. So that's why you lost weight. So a lot of people still think that,
Mm-hmm.
cut carbs, or their initial step when they're going on a weight loss journey, that's it, I'm cutting all carbs from my diet. And I'm like, no, that is not, you're cutting calories. Every single food that you put in your mouth has calories, so obviously if you're cutting back on carbs, all you've done is taken out those calories.
Yeah.
So people gotta really understand that. The carbs aren't making you fat, it's the excess of calories. And obviously, if your diet is just straight carbs and you've got no other, macros in there, that's obviously going to come into play. But we're talking about, like, you just in general, you've just cut carbs. You don't have it, you're like went from eating like you're saying toast for breakfast, and now you're like, nah, taking my toast out. Well, there, you've taken like 200-300 calories out already. You know what I mean? So it's like people need to understand that you need to make sure that you have all three, and that when you take one out, you're taking calories away. You should be, when you look at taking calories away, you should be looking at taking calories from each macronutrient
Yeah.
when you're cutting back, you know, and still making sure that you're hitting your protein targets, of course, but making sure that you're considering everything, not just, I'm going to cut one macro group completely. You know what I mean? So I think that's really, really important to just remember.
Yeah. And something else that I keep hearing from people, it's, yeah, I stop eating at 7 p.m. or I make sure not to eat anything after 8 p.m. And I'm like, why? Why you do that to yourself? Like, it doesn't matter what times you eat, as long as you, again, going back to numbers, as long as you're eating the calories that you should be eating to help you with your goal. It doesn't matter if you eat 8 p.m., 10 p.m., 11
Yeah.
p.m., 12 p.m., well, 12 a.m. It doesn't matter at all. Like, timing doesn't matter. It's all about numbers. It's all about being specific with your macros, with your protein, with your fats, with your carbs. And it's all about being consistent as well. And yeah, we keep saying this every single time, and we're going to keep saying this every single time. But it's all about being consistent. It's all about numbers. It's all about making it very simple, because the moment that you feel like that diet is very overwhelming, or you feel like it's very restrictive, you feel like it's getting too much, that's when you know you're doing something that it's not the right approach. You're doing something that's too restrictive or too extreme, or something that is going to be just short term and you won't be able to maintain that weight off forever.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go back to square one, stick to the basics. Get help. Reach out. If you don't want to reach out, if you don't want to invest your money, at least go to like any calorie macro calculator online. You just type your height, your weight, your age, your activity level, your sex, and it will tell you if you want to maintain, if you want to lose, if you want to gain muscle mass. And every single calorie calculator will be a little bit different. You will not be like the exact same number, but at least you have
Like
like
a good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember even when I was starting, I did that, like a TDE calculator online, and that was just really good because that just gave me, at least like a starting point and a benchmark of what to hit, and then kind of work off that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it seems like a lot. I think like people listening are like, wow, this is like it's so much, like, and there's so much involved. But if you're someone that is not prepared to actually track it, or you're like, I just don't have the time for that, literally just, think about what you're eating in your day and be like, am I having a balance of all of these? And I say to people, like, at least in your main meals, like I was saying before, protein, carbs, and fat source in that, it might be like, okay, for lunch, I'm going to have chicken, rice, avocado, and veg. Like there's my meal, and I've got three there. Like, so just, even if you're someone that's kind of feels a bit overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
And just base it off that. But yeah, it's very interesting, like you were saying, like so much information out there. This is a problem. There's too much information where people then like feed into other people like what they're doing. And then there's so much good information where people they still don't want to listen. You know what I mean? It's like, they're like, oh, but that person looks like that, so I'm going to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and like you were saying before with the timing, like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
people that are like fasting, like it's the best thing. And I get fasting, the benefit of it, if you're someone that wants to kind of save more calories like during your day. But just remember, fasting, it's not fasting that's caused you to lose weight. It's the fact that you've probably, for example, if you're starting your eating window at, say, 11 o'clock, where before you were having a meal at 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock, you would have your next meal. So you've just cut out a meal. So you've cut back your calories, or you've given yourself a window, so you've probably got less meals, as opposed to you having 5 or 6 meals, you're probably only having 4. What have you done? You've cut calories. That is why you've lost weight. Not the fasting as such, it's the style in which you've been eating now. That's called. So then a lot of people will automatically think, oh, it's the fasting that's made me lose weight. Well, you just pushed yourself now into a calorie deficit, So
Yeah. And again, it's all about numbers. It's just numbers. It's nothing else. It's just as simple as it sounds. It's all about numbers. But keep in mind, like if you just want to be healthy and maintain the weight and how you are right now, you don't have to worry about numbers. Just make sure you're getting your protein, carbs, and fats in every single meal. But then don't expect to see those results that you want to see. Don't expect to lose that body fat that you want to lose, or tone your muscles. Have those very nice and round shoulders and have definition in your core or your glutes or whatever, because you're not being very specific. But the moment that you start being specific, that's the moment that you're gonna see those specific results that you want to see in your body. But just keep that in mind, because I hear so many people as well saying like, I eat healthy, but I'm not seeing any results. Okay, cool, you're eating healthy, but
it's probably not right for you,
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and also what's healthy for you, because maybe what's healthy for you, it's not healthy for me. Like I think everyone has like a different definition of healthy.
That's right.
So let's think about numbers, being specific. If you want to be specific with your goals, if you want to achieve those goals, make sure you have the 3 carbohydrates, not just protein, but carbs, fats, and protein in every single meal, or at least your main meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's what I always say to people. Have them, like, say you have 3 main meals, at least have them in that, and then you can have 2 or 3 snacks that are kind of, like you might want to have a little bit of chocolate in there, or have a little bit of, like you were saying before, some rice cakes with peanut butter. Like, it might not be all 3, but at least if you're hitting that in your main meals, I think that's a good start. And then, like you said, if you want to take it to that next level, I think that's when we need to like be specific with the macro targets and the calories to make sure that you're obviously in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, if that's your goal, or if you want to build muscle, eating in a surplus, because that's another thing as well. We could talk about weight loss, but it's like building muscle as well. You need the calories, and you need, like you're saying, the carbs for your workouts, for the strength gains. You need that protein to maintain the muscle and replenish the muscle. So there's so many factors to consider based on your goal. And that's why, like, even for me, I don't share this is my macros, because I know there's people out there that will just be like, all right, I'm going to use that for myself. No, that's not specific to you. You know what I mean? And to your goal, based on how much you move, what exercise you do, like all of those things come into play as well, if we're being really specific with it.
Especially people that have like different body type from you, and they're like, I want to have her body type. And then if you were to share that, I can guarantee they're gonna be like, I'm gonna have whatever you're having, 120 grams of protein, 50 grams of fats, and 160 grams of carb. But it's like, again, it's not for you. This for Lisa. This just because this works for her, it doesn't mean it's gonna work for you, your body type. Maybe you have a complete different lifestyle, a complete different everything. So it's just, you got to think about all of those little details that do make a huge difference. And that's why we always say, if you don't know what you're doing, if you keep getting stuck, if you feel like you've been doing so many things and have tried so many diets, like I have in the past, we have in the past, reach out, like start getting, talk to a coach that can help you, someone that you can relate to, someone that will help you reach those goals. Because if you keep trying to do everything by yourself, you're gonna keep making the same mistakes every single time. And you're just gonna be going like around and around and around instead of like going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I think that's the main message that we're trying to give you guys. Have all your carbs. Don't remove anything. You need every single one of them. But
they all got an important role, like they all have a specific purpose. And people got to remember, like, if the moment that you label a macro bad, like that's it. You're just going to have a negative idea about it. you're not going to understand it. You need to understand that, yeah, okay, we can say good and bad foods, but it's like, well, really, there's no bad food. It's over consumption of foods, because even over, like you were saying before, over consumption of healthy foods is not good for you either. Those like health foods, you know what I mean? Like over consumption of anything isn't good for you. It's all about having it specific to your targets and specific to your goals. So yeah, just really remember that, guys. That's like first and foremost important.
Yeah, anything to the extremes, that never
Yeah.
works. It never works, never with anything, not just diet, but anything in general.
Yeah,
Like
everything in life.
anything to
Yeah.
the extreme, it never works. But yeah, thank you so much, Elisa, for joining us. Well, not it's a weekly pop talk, but is there anything else you want to mention before we go?
No, just like we always say, just keep the questions coming. Anything that you want us to talk about, don't feel afraid to ask, because like, we love talking about,
Yeah.
anything, health, nutrition, exercise, mindset. So if there's anything that you're struggling with, or you feel like I really need to understand this more, just let us know so we can, jump on and discuss it.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching or listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to share this on your social media and tag me and Elisa. Until next time, and as I always say, don't ever stop believing in yourself. Ciao, ciao.